The movie begins with another case revolving around the doll Annabelle. And as I've said before, this doll is so intentionally sinister looking. It's hilarious. It's ridiculous how evil this doll looks on purpose. It's stupid because who would want that in their house? It's ridiculous. And the Warrens tell these people, these three roommates who are involved, that the demon is using a doll to possess one of them, and that demons can't possess objects, only people. So, what's the connection to the Annabelle doll? If the demon can't possess objects, the doll isn't possessed. It makes sense. It's kind of a logical conclusion to make. But in any case, let's work with the idea that somehow the demon is connected, though not possessing, this doll. What do the Warrens do? They put it in a glass case. How is it that the Warrens can protect against this thing isn't quite made clear. I'm not sure why the demon wouldn't play with them in the same manner it played with these other people. Though they put it in a glass case, like something you'd put dishes in or something, and a warning on it. How about, I don't know, putting this doll in cement shoes and throwing it into the ocean? Why are you putting this thing under glass? What is the point of that? It's, as I said, this stuff is nonsense, but the movie approaches it in an equally nonsensical manner. I think they say at some point in the movie that they can't get rid of it because it would set the demon free. Now keep in mind, they also said earlier that a demon cannot possess an object. So, well, it'd be nice if you can either do one thing or the other. You can't have it both ways. Though, encase this thing in a block of cement and be done with it. Why do you need to actually keep it there and provide temptation for other people? Unless you're thinking about sequels, and that would be a logical thing to do under the circumstances. It's a well-acted movie. It's a well-shot movie. I don't know necessarily if it accurately reflects the time period it's supposed to be in, but it looks like a period piece of some sort. It also doesn't make a lot of sense in a lot of ways. In this movie, Juan seemingly has a fixation with the Steadicam. You know, it's the harness system that you attach a camera to, in which it enables the camera operator to move smoothly. Because if you've ever used a camera and walked, it's hard to do because the camera shakes. With the Steadicam, it absorbs that motion, so the shot is smooth, even though the camera is moving. And Juan uses it in this movie a lot, way too much, and in fact, when he shouldn't be using it. I said earlier that Juan appears to understand the nature of horror. Here's where the confusion comes in. The camera is moving so rapidly for no apparent reason that I can find. Someone will be walking into the house. The camera follows them, so the camera is moving as the person moves. Why is this happening? Horror sometimes is built on things being still. In fact, I would argue the best horror is in quiet moments. It's in that darkness that I mentioned earlier. But there's no movement per se. It's just silent. It's waiting. It's like a wolf ready to pounce. It's not pacing back and forth. It's just sitting there, watching, looking for a moment of weakness or vulnerability. That, particularly with haunted house horror, is the nature of it. If you want to do it well, you have to acknowledge that fact. Juan doesn't. So the camera is just following people around willy-nilly for no apparent reason. And watching the movie, it actually began to bother me. Saying at the screen, Put the camera on a tripod already. Why is it following this girl through this house? It's not necessary, and it's odd. And the worst thing is, it diffuses tension. There are points in this movie that are particularly tense, though it squanders tension by excessive movement. It just needed to stop doing it. It's not a bad movie, and better than I remember it being. It's not as good as Possession, not really close. And I don't know if its problems come from just the idiosyncrasies of James Wan or lack of respect for the material. It's odd. And I should mention that Wan's first film in this country, he's Australian, was Saw. Saw takes place in one room, and there's not a lot of moving cameras about. That was the type of logic that should have been employed in The Conjuring. Not a lot of motion, lots of shadow play, lots of great sound design. Those things would have elevated this movie considerably. Instead, we get a movie that's way too caught up on Steadicam for its own good, a story that doesn't really mesh if you give it any thought at all, and not a bad movie, just a mediocre, somewhat uneven one. So what do you think? This is Brian with ScreenFiles.com in a review. Do you agree, disagree? Let me know down below. And as usual, consider a like or a follow. Peace.